Morning lads, the next installation we're going to do is the trunking and PVC singles installation. You know what you need to write down now, the tools list, the materials list, etc. This project is separated into two parts. You've got one piece of trunking up at the top, you've got another piece of trunking at the bottom. As this video is going to be done in two parts, I'm not going to go through the materials and the tools list. Instead, I'm going to put the list down at the bottom as we're going along. Don't forget to write your method statement, the PPE that I use, and the safety precautions that are put in place. So the first thing I've done is I've removed the lid from this piece of trunking. The first bend that we're going to do is a 90-degree angle. So imagine this is half of the trunking. What we're trying to do is to bend one half of that trunking into a 90-degree bend. So we need to measure how long this piece of trunking is going to be. The piece that's running along the top of the consumer unit is 300mm, which is here, and the piece going upwards from the consumer unit is 150mm, which is here. As always, I'm going to use my square to make sure that all of my cuts are at 90 degrees. I've got the piece of trunking in the vise. I now know that the overall length is going to be 450mm, 45 centimetres. I'm now going to use the hacksaw. Now when you're cutting a piece of trunking, make sure you only cut one side at a time. If you try and do the whole lot at once, chances are you're going to get it wrong. As always, I'm going to use a file to get rid of the burrs. Now that we've got our piece cut to 450mm, we need to work out how to do the bend. If you imagine the consumer unit is underneath this piece of trunking, and this being the wall that it's sat on, we need to work out how to bend this trunking so that this part lifts up into a 90-degree angle. To get this piece to move up, material has to be moved from this upper edge so that there's space for the whole thing to be bent forwards. I'm going to flip over my tray again. I'm going to measure out my 300 and mark it. I'll use my square and make a 90-degree line. Okay, so once again, this is the upper edge of the trunking. If this was flat onto the wall, this piece needs to be lifted up. So a piece of trunking has to be removed here. How big does this piece need to be? By using this side of our adjustable square, we can work out how big this section is going to be. I'm going to line it up onto the line at the top and draw down. And same on the other side. This gives me a 90-degree angle, but offset by 45 degrees. I'm going to flip this over again, and again I've lifted up just so you can see. This is the front edge. I'm going to spin it all the way around, and on the back edge I've got my angle. I now need to draw some lines here. One there. One there. Do that one again. Okay, so once again, here's the front. This is the piece that's going to have to be removed. so that this can be bent up, and this is the angle that we've drawn on the back. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit complicated. Normally speaking, we would remove this whole section so that these two pieces of trunking can fold into each other and create a 90, like this. However, with metal trunking, we've got to leave a little bit of material so that the two halves can be pop riveted together. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to flip this over and mark out the centre line. What I want to do is I want to remove this half of the triangle, and I want to remove all of this. But what I don't want to remove is one half of this triangle. Okay, I'm now going to remove this half of what we've drawn. Using a file, I'm going to weaken this back edge so that this will snap off. Making a perfect 90-degree angle. Once again, I'm going to fold these two pieces together. 90-degree angle. That extra piece of material that we've left on is now going to be used to drill and pop rivet the two parts together so that when we let go, they stay together. I'm going to use a C-clamp to hold the two pieces together. I'm going to use a centre punch and a hammer to put a small indentation onto the trunking. Now I'm going to select a drill bit that's the right size for the pop rivet that we're going to use. I'm using a 5.5mm drill bit. Now I'm going to pop rivet those two pieces together. Make sure the pop rivets slide all the way into the rivet gun. Put the rivet into the hole that you've created and squeeze the handle. Keep squeezing the pop rivet gun until the rivet pops. The pieces are now fixed together. Once we've made our second piece, we're going to have to join them together somehow. The way that we do that is by using one of these. They either slip over the inside or the outside of the trunking. In this case, this one slides over the outside. We'll have to bolt it in to this piece, and then once the second piece is done, that will be bolted on as well. Once the bolts have been put in, we need to attach the nuts. I'm going to use an adjustable spanner and a large flat-headed screwdriver to tighten up the bolts. It's now ready for the second piece to go on. The next thing to do is to attach the trunk into the wall underneath the consumer unit. Now on the diagram it says that we should install the trunking above the consumer unit, but we can't because there's a piece of conduit in the way. So I'm going to put it underneath here. I want the edge of the trunking to be parallel with the edge of this consumer unit. I'm going to terminate my trunking into this opening here in the consumer unit. I'm going to measure how far along the consumer unit it is, and it looks like 132 millimeters along. I'm also going to measure how far out this opening is from the back of the wall. And 28 millimeters. I'm going to mark this onto my piece of trunking. So the consumer unit is going to sit above the trunking. I'm going to measure 132 millimeters along. Which is there. And then I'm going to measure 28 millimeters from the base of the trunking. Which is there. Again, I'm going to use the punch to mark where I'm going to drill this piece of trunking. I'm going to use a 20mm hole saw. I'm now going to use a bush and a coupler. Then going to use a bush spanner and some pipe grips to tighten it up. Bush spanner fits on like this. And then can be nipped up. We now need to fit an end cap into this side of the trunking. If we slide it over the outside like this, we can mark where we're going to drill our hole. Once again, we're going to use the punch. And same on the other side. The last thing I'm going to do is create a lid for this bottom section. I'm not going to create a lid for the upper section, as once the two pieces are put together, I'll make a lid that covers both of them. Once filed, this lid can be placed back onto the trunking. This is all we're going to do for this week, and we'll finish off the practical next week. As you can probably already tell, these projects are going to get larger and larger. Thanks for sticking with it. The last thing I'd like to do this week is to select the sizing of the wiring and the overcurrent protective device. Please watch the next video for all the details.